All right, guys. First day back in the lab to record some videos. I told myself, we're not going to care too much about production. We're not going to care too much about scripting out a video. I just wanted to come on here and spit whatever's on my mind. One thing, I just got out of a program class with Annie Duke. So I feel like I'm in this very unique situation. So to catch you guys up on the past few months, it's been about 9 months. So March was hitting records in business, right? We were hitting $20,000 days, $45,000 days, and I think it was a lot of things were happening at once. Now the strange thing is, I knew before going into build the business and partnering with Zach that I was going to have a exponential jump. As in, I knew before going into Zach's business that I was going to blow it up in a good way, right? And in 90 days, exactly the way that I was thinking, my strategy. Now, could have there been a lot of things that went wrong? Were there things that went wrong? Yes, but looking back, um, I was not surprised in the result that I was able to accomplish with Zach. And so, for you guys that don't know, very shortly, we went from 10K a month in profit to 100K a month in profit in 90 days. So, to take a very low six figure EBITDA to then $1 million EBITDA in a year in less than 90 days, or that transformation happened in 90 days, is rare for any business. Like even VC or private equity, as I learned more about that kind of field, that's very rare to do. Now, how was I able to do it? That's the more fascinating thing for me, because what I realized is that like I told you guys, believe it or not, I mean, you could probably check the videos that I had before we actually made that transformation from 10K a month to 100K a month in profit. And I had a clear plan and direction and strategy. And so what I've learned from that experience is that when you have the right knowledge, I learned from, and I'm not gatekeeping any information or people that I learned from, but Benjamin Hardy, probably top five most slept on business entrepreneurs in the ways that you can think. And this is going to allow you to get out of the noise of every digital marketer that's teaching a different funnel, teaching you more copywriting, teaching you more sales. Like all of those things are great. But if you don't have the right knowledge and the right frameworks and the mental models, that is going to take you way further than learning copywriting or sales, right? Nothing bad about those things. But when I learned, so I paid for a program and paid him to teach me. And I learned concepts that I just it made sense. It clicked for me. And that's when I realized I could go into any business and really exponentially grow it. Right. Now business is a game of luck. It's a game of luck and making good decisions. It's the quality of your decisions, and luck is a factor. That's a lot of things that people don't want to say. But there is luck involved. Um, and so you're not going to hit it all the time. But if you play the game of business long enough, you will land on things as long as you make good decisions on and pair that with luck with many tries, you will land on the business that works, right? Which is why the game is don't quit, right? Don't quit. And so why am I saying this? Just to wrap it all around, it's been 8 months. So I left a business intentionally, right? So we hit our records. February, we hit our second, one of our second biggest months, February, and I left in March. Why did I leave? Did I leave because I was forced to leave? No. I left because one, I look back and I wanted to do something of my own, right? Um, I wanted to do something of my own. I thought I could do something better, and so that's why I left. Um, and in that process, I thought I was going to start a business, right? I thought I was going to start a consulting business, and I was like, well, if I have to split everything 50%, then I have to work twice as hard. And for me, I was very much about how am I getting more leverage? How am I making more money for the amount of time that I'm working? Which, as an entrepreneur, I think is the number one thing. Is like like what is your time worth, and how much are you getting actually getting paid in terms of profit for every hour that you work? Because I don't want to be working 60, 70 hours a week, right? And so that was the math I did, and I just logically that's why I left. Um, but in that process, I ended up not working. And so that was in March, all the way to now. Um, this is outside of business, but I just worked on so many things, good and bad. I think I made some very bad decisions, and I made some very good decisions. But we're here 9 months later, and I can confidently say that I have one of those seasons again where I learned a lot, and I'm ready to take another stab at it with business. Um, and one of the people that I've been learning from, so I told you guys, Benjamin Hardy was one person I learned from, and the other person is Annie Duke. And Annie Duke, she was a professional poker player, and she made around 2 million in poker earnings. I believe she won the women's world championship for poker, and she's all about how do you make decisions under uncertainty, right? Where you're not omniscient, so you don't know all the things, which is business, and there is luck involved as well, right? And so that is what I am looking to merge myself through or try to learn through. An example of this is in the agency space, right? So this is one of the things I'm seeing. Like a lot of agencies, if not most agencies, are stuck. Why are they stuck? So they're making, let's say, 100K a month in revenue, right? So if you're an agency right now, you're making 100K a month in revenue. Your profit is maybe like 50,000, right? 50,000, maybe even 30,000 a month in profit, and you wonder why you can't grow in terms of profit. You can't get the bottom line higher. Well, the reason being is if you look at the metrics that matter, right? And this is what I'm learning from business is that you have to get the fundamentals down. You have to get the models right. And so in business or in the agency game, especially, you're paying for CAC. So your cost is CAC, right? It's probably going to be your biggest cost, which is how much it costs you to acquire a customer and how much do you make in total gross profit? So that's what Hermosi talks about. He says the number one math equation that he always equates business down to, which I'm a big fan of, is just getting things down to an equation, simplifying things so that you can know what the most important things are and then be able to scale those things. So when it comes to the economics of business and agency game, you're looking at how much does it cost you to acquire a customer, which is CAC, cost of acquisition, and then you have to look at lifetime gross profit, which is not lifetime value, right? So a lot of agencies, number one, they don't know their lifetime value, which is the number of months that someone stays for you, number of months that they stay on for, and how much money they pay you. So 2,000 for 6 months would be 12,000 LTV. Now, lifetime gross profit, which is the actual number you want to look for, is take the 12,000 and then whatever costs that were associated towards delivering the service, you want to subtract. So let's say that it costs you 1,000 every month to fulfill and you charge 2,000 and the client stay for 6 months, then your cost of goods sold would be 6,000. Your lifetime value would be 12,000. Your lifetime gross profit would be 6,000. Here is when things get interesting. So your lifetime gross profit 6,000. If it costs you 4,000, right, which is where the market's headed, I'm going to combine this and stay with me. It costs you 4,000 to get 6,000 lifetime gross profit. Then you're only making 2,000, right, for 6 months of work. Now I don't know about you, but I don't want to do that, right? That is making a few $100s every month for a client that you have to run ads for, that you have to coach and train, and so and here's the crazy thing, right? Is that you could, if you did, right, which I see a lot of agencies do, they'll be like, okay, I'm going to turn on marketing sales, and they think that spending more money on ads, signing on more clients is going to allow them to make more money. And you could, and the thing is, you could make more money, right? Your Stripe could say, I made an extra 50,000 a month, right? I went from 100 to 150. But why is it that the profit, right? We talked about being at 100,000 revenue and 30,000 a month in profit. Why is it that the profit, even if you go from 100 to 150 in revenue, your profit could go from 30 to 40 or just stay at 30 or even go down, right? Which is the game that most people go is they try to scale and then it gets, for whatever reason, they look at their P&L a few months later and they're like, okay, we can't do this. And then so they just stop scaling. And the reason why agencies stay where they are is that most agencies are most profitable, or the agencies today are most profitable when they have recurring clients who are continuously paying them. Okay. Stay with me now, right? Because this will all make sense. So think about this, right? If you're an agency and you have, let's just make the math simple. Let's say that you have, tw- um, let's say that you have 40 clients paying you 2,500, right? So that's 100 grand. So you have 40 clients paying you 2,500. If they were if they were the 40 clients who you've had for a while, then they're the most profitable client because of the fact that you don't have to spend to acquire those customers. Does that make sense? You already paid off the CAC, the cost to acquire those 40 customers. And so for every month that they're staying on board after the CAC threshold, the pay threshold, you're making profit. You're making that much more profit for them clients. And so you don't have to acquire them. And so every month that they stay on, you make profit. And for that reason, you're profitable. But the thing is, if you want to grow, you have to crack the model, right? You have to crack the CAC and the lifetime gross profit. The reason why you're not able to scale revenue and sales is because this model is broken. And the example I just gave you guys was that even if you sign on 20 clients in a month and you sign on an extra 50,000 in revenue, the thing is, if clients, if you it costs you 4,000 and clients are leaving after month 3 or month 4, right? You could do all this work. You could work for 3 or 4 months. You could sign on 20 new clients a month, right? But and this is what everyone does, right? They sign on 20 new clients a month. They make an extra 50,000 in revenue, right? They're doing all this work, they're fulfilling, and then later down the line, they realize that they're not profitable or they're break even. Because if it costs you 4,000 and let's say that you only make 4,000 lifetime gross profit, right? We're not talking about lifetime revenue, lifetime gross profit, which is why people don't understand why they can't scale. If these two numbers at the end of the day are the same, 4,000 to buy a customer, 4,000 to make profit, then guess what? You are going to just continue to be on the hamster wheel. Hopefully that makes sense. If you guys have any questions on that, let me know. But that is very, very important to understand because in order to make more profit and actually make more in your bottom line, you have to understand how to change these numbers. And I'll go into how to change these numbers, but you have to understand why you run into challenges, right? And so most people they don't, you see a lot of agency owners and people I work with or have worked with when they're at 7 figures, they're trying to just hold on to the clients they have and you'll see this. They'll try to advertise, and then they'll stop advertising, and then they'll try to advertise again and be like, "Okay, that's the solution. I just need to do a better ad or a better video, or I just have to have a better sales process." They tell themselves this, but their model's already broken, and so they're looking at the wrong problem. They're trying to solve the wrong problem, right? And so, and then they end up being unprofitable because again, it costs more. And the thing is, guys, again, two metrics that you really have to look at: um, CAC, how much it costs to acquire a customer, and lifetime gross profit. Right now, the market is becoming more and more saturated, right? As in there's more agency owners. Me right now making this video, who knows? I might just make somebody an agency owner, right? Somebody that's watching this video right here will be like, "Oh, you know what? I want to make some money online. I want to become an agency owner." And then they become an agency owner. That becomes more market competition for you, which guess what? When you are commoditized, right? There's more plumbing Facebook ad agencies. There's more chiropractic Facebook ad agencies. The chiropractors and the local business owners, they don't know who to choose, right? And they've been burned so many times. And so, when you've been burned so many times, when you're hopping on a sales call, you're clicking on less ads, you're hopping on less sales calls, which only means that the cost to get somebody on the call is going to be more expensive. The cost to acquire a client, a new client for you, is going to become more expensive as the market gets more saturated, which is only going to get worse, right, with AI and everything. So it's getting harder and harder. Cost is going way, way higher, right? Because of CAC, because you're commoditized. And then lifetime gross profit is dependent on how many months they stay on board, right? And the cost to deliver the service and the margin that you have there. But if you just look at the number of months that they stay on board, most clients, because they've been burned, this is not their first rodeo, right? If I was in a relationship and I was getting in a relationship for the first time, you know, and I've never been in a relationship before, I probably would last way longer than if this is my second go around. Does that make sense? Just because you have more hope, right? And then there's psychology behind this, but if this is your first time, you're gonna have hope. You're gonna have things that you didn't know, and but then when you're in your fourth, fifth relationships, I mean, you could see the number of the duration of length in a relationship if it doesn't turn out well. If it's their fourth or fifth one, it's way shorter, right? Because they're willing to know from experience that this is going to work out, and they cut ties, right? Um, so same thing with your clients is that they've been burned. This is their third, fourth. I mean, I promise you, ask any of your prospects or people that you're talking to right now. The majority of the time, I'm gonna say I've worked with the agency before, right? Like, well, that's what we're seeing in the market, and this is direct feedback that you get from the market. And so if that's the case, and they've worked with 3 or 4, and they also most likely had bad experiences, can we, like, raise our hand and agree that there are bad agencies, and if anything, there's majority are bad agencies rather than good agencies. And for that reason, majority of people in your market have a bad experience. And so if that's the case and they've been burned before, and this is not their first rodeo, then the moment they stop getting results, which we know happens in our industry, right? We know that this is all ebbs and flows. Month 3, month 4, even though you are the best agency for them, even though you are providing really good results, even though that they have to kind of weigh things out for you guys to work things out in their business, they will leave. And the moment they leave, they will leave earlier and your LTV is lower than before. And it's only going to become harder because there's less trust. So trust is one of those things that is just affecting 2 of the most important metrics and then top down, right? Which is affecting a lot more metrics, right? Cost per show, cost per lead, just a lot more, like even your costs, your CPMs, right? But fundamentally, trust is affecting 2 of the most important factors, which is again CAC and lifetime gross profit. Here, clients are churning way sooner because they have less trust and they've been burned many times and multiple times. They have less trust and they just dip out the moment they want to dip out, or they have a reason to. And then here, because there's so much saturation, there's so many marketers, so many sales that are happening in this, and so much competition, CAC, it's becoming more expensive for you to acquire a customer. And for that reason, the less margin you have from CAC to lifetime gross profit, I've covered that in a different video. The less margin you have between those two things, the less unprofitable you're going to be. And so, what happens when you try to scale a one-on-one model, right? If something gives you, if you give me $1, I give you $1 back. Doesn't matter if I give you 1,000,000, right? What's your net? 0, right? If I give you 1,000,000,000, if it's still a 1-to-1 ratio, you don't make any money. You pay back 1,000,000,000, right? So that's where I see a lot of agency owners. Hopefully, you can get this where you can do so much work. I see so many agency owners working 40 hours a week doing marketing and sales, training your sales team, doing ads, doing all these things, but because their model, Hormozy wrote an entire book. Why do you think he wrote a book on money models? For this exact reason. I came to these conclusions before. I'm not gonna say before Hormozy, but before I didn't even read the book yet. But I already know what the book is about because I know the problem. Right, the problem makes sense to me. I would understand why he made a book. So he made a book an offer, right? So you could work on CAC, right? And then he wrote a book on, what was the other one? I forget the other one. Leads, right? So you could track, again, CAC. And then he wrote a book on money models because if you don't have the money models right, it doesn't matter how many leads, doesn't matter how irresistible of an offer you have. If your model is broken, you have a 1-to-1 ratio, or you have a 1 to 1.05, you have very little margin. Doesn't matter how much activity you do. Doesn't matter how, if you work 40 hours a week on sales and marketing, try to put out 20,000, 30,000 a month on ads, you get 20 new clients a month, you will still be break even or very little margin. Okay. So to wrap this up, that is my insights. And I have a lot more, but I'll stop it there, right? If you can simplify things in business, right? That's what I'm all about. How do I optimize? How do I optimize the most important metrics in business? If I can do that, I don't have to be great at everything, right? But if I can just become really good at the very few important things in business, then I win, right? Which is what I did with Think Bullish. I went in, I looked at what was the most important things. I focused on where I think we could add the most value, where we could extract the most value. And then we went from 10K a month in profit. Sometimes we were even negative to then making 100K a month in profit in a single month in less than 90 days. Right. So this is how exponential you can be. Because when you have a good model, you have the ratios right. Maybe you're putting $1 in, you're getting $5 out. Right. You can make a lot of money in a short period of time, right? As long as you have a system and the right correct ratios and models. Okay. So again, focus on this one equation, which is your cost per acquisition, how much it costs you to acquire a customer, and your lifetime gross profit. Really know those numbers, right? Really know those numbers and see how you can spread out that ratio, right? Because a lot of the times, again, I'll end it off with this. This is what I've been realizing, right? First off, as humans, we are into short-term gratification, right? Why is it that we just pick up our phone and look at social media, and why it's so addicting? Why is it that the first thing when we get bored, we try to find ways to entertain ourselves? Why is it that Netflix and entertainment is a freaking $1 trillion industry, right? The reason why is because it's short-term pleasure, right? It's a path of least resistance, and it's short-term gains, right? That's why lotteries, gambling, porn, all these things are short-term inducing, right? Which is why humans are wired for that. And and the reason why that can be challenging is that when you get a sale, I know so many agency owners, I can clearly see this, where they will get a sale for 2,000, 3,000 a month. And because they just are so caught up with the emotional high of selling customers and making a sale, they will just continue to do that, right? And they'll chase after that. But this is what I've learned, and this comes from experience, is that when you start to sell clients and you realize, wait, hold up, wait a minute, like it doesn't matter how many sales I make, right? I'll give you an example. You could sign on a client. So in this example, right, let's say it costs you 4,000 to acquire a customer. Right, stay with me now because I'm Asian and I like math. If it costs you 4,000 to acquire a customer, right, to spend 4,000 with commissions, sales commissions, and ads on Facebook to acquire one customer, and that customer pays you 2,000 a month, then it would take you 2 months for you to break even, right? So for you to even make, your money back, you have to have that customer sign on and pay you 2 times at 2,000, twice at 2,000, right? So 4,000, and then you break even. You don't even make money, you just break even, which means that you could do all the marketing and selling and do fulfillment, onboard a client, do check-in calls for the first 8 weeks, and at month 2, at the end of month 2, do all this work to do Facebook ads, everything, make sure they're closing, and at the end of month 2, you break even, right? Then if they leave after month 2, you did all that work. So you're basically in a negative, right? That's how you should see break evens, because if you don't make money, then like, what do you like? You're just going to do charity work. So if you do 2 months of work and they leave, then you're screwed, right? You're screwed. But most people, most agency owners, they will get the sale of 2,000 and then the other 2,000, and they'll get hugged up, and they'll just be like, they'll keep doing that, right? Oh, I just got to keep doing more of this. Now, most agency owners don't even check their profit, right? They don't check their profit. Actually, how much are they profiting? How much are they keeping? And for that reason, they'll just keep working, and they won't wonder why they're not making more money in their bank account, but their bank balance is just like in, out, in, out, in, out. But they're not even like catching on to it. They just see like the immediate high of 2,000 to then 4,000. And at the end of the month, like 2, 3 months down the line, they're at zero. And they're like, wait, like, how is this possible? Like, how do we get to it? And then they'll be like, oh, well, I'm falling behind, so I have to get more sales. That's the logic. It's like, I have to get more sales. But they're not connecting the fact that revenue doesn't equal profit, right? And they're not connecting the fact that maybe I need to change the ratios to make sure that every sale I do get, no matter how much, right? Because it has to be something for you to profit. So that's still correct. But if it's costing you 4,000 with CAC, if it's costing you more to actually pay and fulfill for a customer, then you're actually losing money. So it doesn't matter how many sales you're getting. You should let go of the emotional high that you're getting from sales and the immediate sale and revenue, and look at, what am I actually profiting from the client? Right. And that has to ground you. And sometimes that's going to be something that happens down the line. So it won't be the immediate high that you get. You have to know and forecast, right? Which is what I'm learning here, is it's all about probabilities and forecasting. So if you can forecast the amount of profit that you would make from a client, and even though right now you're down the whole 4,000, if I told you that you're going to be down the whole 4,000 all the way up until month 3 or 4, but after month 3 or 4, that you would be profitable by at least 3,000, then you would probably take that bet, right? And that would be a good bet to take. The challenge is that when you don't make that money back, and you forecast wrong, right? Then, or you don't forecast at all, right? Which is sometimes what people do, which is crazy. They won't even forecast what they're actually going to profit. That's when challenges arise, right? That's when challenges arise. And so, um, again, that is by knowing through experience, and this has been through experience of me not being profitable. Um, to give you guys a story and to end off with this, so I got into the agency game in 2017, right? You guys can check my videos on YouTube. I was trying to get into the agency game. I saw Ime Agatsi. I saw him just like come up, from ground zero. I knew him when he had like a few thousand, I think. And then to see his evolution has been crazy. It's been hella inspiring to see. Um, but even with that, right? So from 2017, I was on and off. I didn't really start until 2020, but I was still in the game. From 2020, we hit from 2020 to 2022, I believe, or 2023. We did about 700,000, 800,000 in revenue, which is cash collected. Now, how much you guys think I made in those 2 years, right? So I made 700,000 in revenue, but if you guys have been listening, right, revenue can be a very scary number because how much did I actually take home, which means like this is money that I get to pay for my parents, give them money, pay for a house, pay for a car, you know, be able to give back to my church. Like, how much do you guys think I had, at the end of it? Now, it was paying for my living costs, but let's just not include that. I made literally like $1,000 in those 2 years in profit, and I worked those were the hardest years. Even looking back now, I haven't even worked harder than those 2 years. Those were the 2 hardest years of my life in terms of, like, work ethic. I was just like a freaking dog. I was working every day, every hour of the day, and then sleeping for, like, 8 hours, and I was locked in. But even then, I made, like, $1,000 in 2 months or in 2 years of work, and I made 700,000 in business, right? Now, fast forward to now in 2025 or 2024, 2025, in 3 months, I took a business from 10,000 to 100,000 in profit, and I should have got paid way more than I did, but in a span of 8 months, I was able to save my first 100 grand in cash in 8 months, and this is after maybe, living at, like, 7, 8,000 a month, so I was still spending a lot, but I was still saving a lot, and I was still able to save about 100 grand in cash, in pure cash, before taxes, in 8 months, and so it was 100 times more than I made in the past that I made in profit, and this was owner distributions, right? This is after even Zach got, uh, just as much as I did, right? So if I ran that entire business by myself, that would have been 2 times more the profit that I would have made, but I made 100 times more in profit than I did in the past 7 years, and that's exponential returns. And again, I'm attributing this all back to knowledge. I don't know why I wanted this book, but this is actually a great book. But knowledge, right? Knowledge and experience. And so continuously learning from people like Benjamin Hardy, Annie Duke is and taking that 8 months of a break, I believe is going to allow me to make a bigger, a more exponential jump. And that's what I'm excited to share with you guys. And so that's it for today. I'm logging out, guys. Peace.